Okay, so your small intestine is made of 3 sections. The first section is called the duodenum or duodenum, I guess, depending on how you want to pronounce it. This is about the first 25 centimeters of the 7 meters. The second section is about 2.5 meters. That's called the jejunum. And the last section, which is the last 4 meters, is the ileum. I think that's why I say it should be duodenum, jejunum, ileum. That kind of all matches. So most of the action, I guess, occurs in the duodenum. This is where you have the secretions from the, I should say liver, or sorry, gallbladder. Or I could say liver via the gallbladder. That means by way of. If you want to sound super smart when you're writing papers, you use the word via or via, whatever. That means by way of. So it's like it comes from the liver, but it goes through the gallbladder first. So via the gallbladder. That's where all of the pancreatic juice and the bile enter. When this all gets dumped into the duodenum, I'll use both pronunciations because I'm just used to using duodenum. They trigger intestinal mucus glands to release large amounts of mucus. Again, this is going to protect the intestinal wall. As the chyme is neutralized, you don't want any harm coming to the duodenal walls. So you'll still have lots of mucus covering the duodenum. After food is digested, so most of the digestion is going to occur in the duodenum and the jejunum. And from the jejunum through the ileum, and this is why the ileum is the longest part, that's where absorption is going to occur. Now, the jejunum and the ileum are well adapted for absorption. It makes sense because that's what the function is. And absorption is just transferring the end products of digestion to the circulatory system. Now, this is going to occur differently between the amino acids glucose and the fat products. And I guess I'm going to talk about that later because I'm going to talk about the surface area first. The reason why the jejunum and the ileum are so well adapted is because of the structure of the walls, the lining. Of course, larger surface area means faster diffusion. So a couple of adaptations for the small intestine. It's long and narrow that increases the surface area between 5 to 6 meters long and between 2.5 to 4 centimeters in diameter. Now, this is the structure that really makes the difference. These are extensions of the wall of the small intestine. These are called villi. The singular would be villus. This is plural. And they are just extensions of the wall of the small intestine. Now, even more than that, the cells that make up the villi also have extensions on their membranes called microvilli. The folds, the villi, and the microvilli give the small intestine a surface area of 250 square meters. So imagine you have a tube that's on average 6 to 7 meters long that has a surface area of a tennis court. That is crazy. And it's all because of these folds and extensions, the villi and microvilli. This is a really good both diagram, and then down here you can see the micrograph of the villi. So each one of these kind of finger-like extensions is a villus, and then you see the microvilli there. All of this is going to massively increase the surface area for absorption. Now I can talk about how it's different. The glucose and amino acids are going to go straight into the capillaries. So straight into the bloodstream. The fatty acids and glycerol, however, are going to be absorbed into the lymph system first, the lymphatic system. So you can see from the diagram here, inside each villus, you have the capillary bed, which is like the red and the blue, the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. And running through the middle of that is a lymphatic capillary called a lacteal. So the the glycerol and fatty acids are going to enter lacteals. They're going to get carried through the lymphatic system until they finally meet up with the bloodstream near the heart. So it's important to remember to distinguish between how different products of digestion are absorbed. So as I said, amino acids and glucose are going to enter the capillaries. They're going to go to the liver. The liver, as I said before, neutralizes toxic substances in the blood. It's going to remove any excess glucose. It will be converted to glycogen. The filtered blood is then going to carry the nutrients to all parts of the body. And finally, we get to the large intestine. Again, peristalsis is moving the chyme through the small intestine. Finally, it gets to the large intestine. Another name for the large intestine is the colon. This is the final organ of digestion. And here's what it looks like under X-ray. You've got 4 parts to it. You've got the ascending colon, because the food is going to go from the small intestine up, the ascending colon. Then it's going to go through transverse. Then it's going to go down the descending colon. And finally, this last little part called the sigmoid. So you've got ascending, because we're going up. Transverse, going across. Descending, going down. And I'd have to look up where sigmoid comes from. But those are the 4 parts of the large intestine, or the colon. Okay, sigmoid colon occurs just before the rectum. This is the rectum. The rectum is where the feces is stored until it gets full and the walls of the rectum stretch, and that's where you feel the need to poop. The large intestine is only 1.5 meters long, but it is much wider in diameter, whereas the small intestine is between 2.5 and 4 centimeters in diameter. The large intestine is 6.5. It does not have any villi, doesn't need it, because the only thing it's really going to be absorbing are mostly water and minerals. Of course, just as with every other digestive organ, we have a sphincter that separates the ileum from the first part of the colon, which is also called the cecum. This allows about 2 milliliters of chyme to pass at a time. Most of the water and nutrient absorption is completed in the small intestine. To give you an example of how much water our bodies actually reabsorb, there's 9 liters of water that enter the small intestine every day, and only about 0.5 liter is left when the food finally gets to the colon. I suppose I should stop calling it food at this point, because it's really undigested waste. But the material that goes to the colon only has about 500 milliliters of water left. Now, a really important part of the large intestine is you have a lot of bacteria living there, specifically a bacteria called E. coli. Now, these bacteria can help make vitamins. The bacteria make some B vitamins and vitamin K. There's other bacteria that can help break down any remaining proteins and carbohydrates, which gives feces its smell, because when these bacteria metabolize the proteins and carbohydrates in your waste products, they produce methane gas, and that's what makes your farts smell. Finally, some slow contractions start to move this material towards your rectum. And as I said, when the walls of your rectum are distended means stretched by the feces, you will start to feel the need to poo. As the fecal matter solidifies, cells that line the large intestine are going to secrete large amounts of mucus, obviously, to act as a lubricant, which helps make passing feces or pooping less harsh. It also helps to bind fecal matter together. The expansion of the colon is going to start reflex contractions, which move the material out of the body. So between the minute that you put the food in your mouth to the minute it comes out of your anus can range anywhere from between 19 to 33 hours. But you can generally assume that within 24 hours, everything that you ate 24 hours ago is out of your body. Now, there is a protein called bilirubin that is excreted by the bile. That's broken down by bacteria, and this gives feces its brown color. Again, just as a biology vocab clue, if you have a biological term that ends with the suffix -in, that indicates protein, just like I talked about pepsin. Oops. Pepsin before, and pepsinogen, right? Okay.